doesn't love you back, and you toss and turn at 3 in the morning, and you hear a train cross a distant track. There in the dark, some words start forming, and you write a song. Maybe it'll make the night easier to get through it. Maybe it'll ease the pain, but that's not why you do it. It's not a temporary, momentary, ordinary passion. You write a song because you have to.
Hi, and welcome to our show. My name is Dave Lenahan. This is Songwriter Connection, and if this is the first time you've joined us, well, as you might have guessed, it's about the craft of songwriting. It's all about the song on this show. We get to meet a lot of the neat people that are behind the songs that you hear on the radio every single day. We do the show in conjunction with NSAI, and that stands for Nashville Songwriters Association International. We've got a very active chapter right here in our own backyard. It is the Songwriters Workshop at Southbrook, and it's a great group of people. In fact, I want to tell you some news about some of these folks that you've seen on the show in the past. Eric Measel was one of our guests a few months back. Eric just had a couple of songs signed down in Nashville, single song contracts that they're shopping around, and hopefully we'll get to hear them on the radio someday real soon. That's exciting. Also, a bunch of us went down to a Tunesmith seminar in Nashville, and it was a songwriting competition up against great songwriters from all over the country. And Greg Althammer's group, he's the coordinator of our NSAI chapter here in Cincinnati and Dayton. His group, with David Blowers and Darren Wiedemann, actually won that competition, so they get a single song contract too, and maybe we'll hear that song on the radio. It's all real exciting things. And you know, the guy that makes this all possible is our teaching coordinator of the Songwriters Workshop at Southbrook. He is our guest tonight. He has written hundreds of songs, and he's been a Nashville songwriter. He's under contract for some songs right now too, and we just thank him so much for everything he's taught and brought to our group. His name is Jim Melko, and he's our guest on Songwriter Connection tonight.
It's 1 o'clock a.m. I can almost believe that I can feel you lying here beside me. The whisper of your hand soft against my skin, just to see if maybe I'm awake. But where I felt your breath upon my shoulder, your empty place is telling me it's over. I remember the way you loved me then, the way your smile would light the evening, the way your touch would give it meaning. I remember when our love could never end, but it still can last forever. When I remember another morning comes to end, another sleepless night, another dawn without your arms around me. It's no use trying to pretend that time will make things right when the future's just another memory. 'Cause every castle that we built has tumbled down. They say you can't live in the past, but that's the only peace I found. When I remember the way you loved me then, the way your smile would light the evening, the way your touch would give it meaning. I remember when our love could never end, but it still can last forever. When I remember when we drew pictures in the starry sky, I remember when we made love by the fireside, I remember when you came to me and said goodbye. guess it still can last forever when I remember when.
What a beautiful song. Jim Melko is our guest. The show is Songwriter Connection. Jim, that is one of my favorite songs that you do.
That's one of my favorites too.
Is it really?
That is actually my favorite song of all the songs I've ever written.
Why is that?
Well, first of all, it took me the longest to write.
How long did it take you to write?
About 12 years. That song, I'm serious, it did.
And you think songwriting's easy? 12 years?
That song spans almost my entire, what's the word I want? Professional career. It's not really professional, but aspiring to be a professional career.
Okay.
I started out trying to write R&B back in the 80s, and as I came to the end of writing R&B, I started working on this song called Carolina, which is actually the song.
It started out as Carolina?
It was like, Carolina, I wonder who loves you now, that kind of thing, yeah.
Wow.
And then I turned it into When I Remember When. I wrote it with a friend of mine named L.B. Fred, who was working with me at the University of Dayton. And over the years, I just kept rewriting it, trying to get it right, taking the feedback that people had given me about the song. And then finally, we got it published with Gatlin Brothers Music.
Oh, yeah.
With Mike Smith down in Nashville, and I think it was like 1993, 94, something like that. And they pitched around a little bit, and then Gatlin Brothers went defunct, and for several years, nothing happened with it. I kept rewriting it, wrote that bridge because one of our songwriters, Keith Carroll, kept telling me that I had to rewrite that bridge, and also somebody else kept hitting me on that all the time too.
So show us that a little bit of that. The bridge was.
The bridge,
it used to be.
Let's see. It
Do
used
you
to be.
remember how it used to be?
I'm not sure if I can. No, I don't remember how it used to go.
Okay.
But yeah, it was kind of cool because I was in my living room one day trying to think, what can I do here? When I remember, and I went to that and I thought, oh.
Chord.
I can go somewhere there. And then, I kept following that progression, and yeah, it was just nice.
Isn't it amazing how songs evolve like that?
Yeah.
You know, starts out as Carolina and comes out completely something different.
Right.
Yeah. Songs, do you call that finished now? Do you dare?
Yeah, I know it's finished now.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that the reason it took me 12 years to write was because it took me 12 years to develop the skills to be able to write it.
Great.
The reason that it was not right in all those earlier stages was because I hadn't yet learned how to write well enough.
I see.
So
that's very interesting.
I think I finally got there.
Let's talk about how your journey. Your dad was a jazz pianist.
Yes, he played professional jazz piano up until about World War II. Wow. Played in a band. They used to just improvise all the time, playing those old Tin Pan Alley songs. And
did he teach you how to play the piano at all?
No. No, I did learn to play the piano, and I hated it. I got up to a certain basic level. Yeah. And then I just quit. I wanted to learn to play guitar, and I did that. But it gave me the theory and the knowledge, to know what I need to do with songwriting and with guitar.
I'll bet.
I highly recommend learning to play piano, even if you don't like it.
So how did you come up with that? When did it happen that it just hit you one day, I can write songs?
Well, my brother was in a bunch of about a bunch of 60s rock bands. He's 9 years older than I was, and he was a member of the 60s generation, and they used to play in trailers and out in garages and all that kind of thing. And he wrote a couple songs. One of them was called I Get Better Looking Every Day. That was kind of cute. And some other stuff that was actually harking back to early 60s, 50s stuff. And I thought, well, I could do that. And I used to noodle around on the piano. I remember I wrote a song called Somewhere Mrs. Cinder. I have no idea where I got that from. I could probably still play it. And then a friend of mine wrote a poem called Lady in Blue. And that was in 9th grade. And I took that poem and put music to it. And interestingly enough, even today when I play that song, it's still a fairly decent song.
Wow.
I'd never get published, but yeah.
That's really
at least it wasn't embarrassing.
So you spent some time in Nashville. You were pitching R&B songs, huh?
Yeah, I got into R&B with a partner of mine who played keyboards, African-American fellow named Dave Winston. We wrote a bunch of stuff together, and then he left, got married and left, and I wrote 2 more songs and produced them myself and took them down to Nashville. And met with Diane Petty at CSAC, I'll never forget that. And she listened to one of my songs and was really getting into it, nodding her head and closing her eyes and just going
Always
with
a
it.
good sign.
And then when it was over, she just smiled and pulled the tape out and handed it to me and said, "Pretty good for a white boy." And I said, "Okay, I got to rethink this because I'm not going to get anywhere in black music, you know, as a lone white guy." So, and I love Nashville. I love the culture, and I learned through my association with Dave that culture is an important thing. I was totally immersed in black culture with him, and just said, I like what's going on here. I love Nashville. I love the relationships and stuff. I'm going to learn to write country. So for 2 years,
country.
Yeah. Well, actually, I wrote what nobody would call country. I mean, it was terrible. And it took years just listening to radio stations here in the Dayton area. And
I have a hard time believing they were terrible, Jim.
They were
Tell
bad.
us about when it first
really
started
bad.
to pop for you. You got a magic phone call one day, didn't you? One of those calls that we all dream about.
Yeah, actually, that's kind of where it started. We I had entered a lyric in a contest in American Songwriter magazine called "He May Not Call Me Daddy." LB and I had written that one, the same guy that wrote When I Remember When with me. And we got second place with that lyric. And then I came home from an evening out with my wife, and there was a message on my answering machine. And a fellow said, "You don't know me, but my name is James Patrick Dunn. I co-wrote Nobody Loves Me Like You Do for Anne Murray."
Wow, the Anne Murray song.
And he said, "I
time.
saw your lyric in a magazine down in Nashville, and I'd like to write the music to it."
Wow.
So LB and I already had a melody to it, and so of course we said, "Jimmy, go ahead."
Yeah, what else are you going to say?
So much for that melody. Okay, go ahead and do what you can do, And that started a long relationship. I never met Jimmy. We've written a lot of songs together. We did it all over the telephone. That was before the internet came along.
Amazing.
And never met him, but we wrote a lot of songs. He got a staff deal down in Nashville, and we were pitching through Tom Collins. He signed that particular song. And I learned so much. I learned at least 75% of what I know about songwriting. I learned through my association with James Patrick Dunn, Jimmy Dunn.
And he was in California?
Yeah, he was
in
yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, he was a very successful songwriter, and he wrote the Joni Loves Chachi theme song. He wrote the Junior Olympics theme song.
Wow.
He wrote the theme song for As the World Turns.
Wow.
All that stuff, yeah.
Amazing songwriter.
So,
I want to talk about the concept of landscaping a song, because you talk about a song that you and he co-wrote.
Right.
Explain a little bit what that's all about, landscaping a song.
Landscaping a song actually is derived from a lesson done by John Ems, who wrote She's in Love with the Boy for Trisha Yearwood. He called it the radiation exercise, where you stand in front of the doorway of your boyhood home or girlhood home or whatever, and you just start to see what was there, 180 degrees to your left, and you just kind of radiate outwards to 90 degrees and over to 0. And then you also become aware of what's behind you and so on. Well, I found that an interesting technique. I call it landscaping because we use some more senses, not only the 5 senses, but the sense of proximity. Pat Patterson calls that hiding beneath your porch and feeling the nails poking through above your back, but you can't, you're not feeling them, you're not seeing them, you just know they're there.
Yeah.
And inertia, being aware of movement around you and that kind of thing. So when we wrote this song called He Won't Hurt Her Anymore, I was totally into the head of this woman who's the character in the song. I knew exactly what her apartment looked like. She's coming out of domestic abuse, she's starting over again, she's got an apartment, things in it are white, the whole kitchen is white. I can see going along, there's the countertop and all that kind of thing. There's a little desk area that's made out of the countertop with the telephone above that. She had a dining room over here with a glass table and sliding glass doors that led out to a redwood deck overlooking a stretch of woods and all that kind of thing. I knew her apartment because I knew where she was coming from with it.
I just have to break in and say, we always talk about putting furniture into songs. You actually saw the furniture through this landscaping exercise, and that's something you've done with us in the workshop, and it is so powerful. I mean, you visualize this thing, and then you make it come to life. Show us how that worked on that song.
Yeah, the main thing in that song was clean. Everything to her was clean.
Everything was clean.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what she needed.
Jim Melko, our guest on Songwriter Connection.
She had just come home from work when he called her. When she heard his voice, she almost dropped the phone. He was begging her to please just understand him. He had changed and couldn't face his life alone. He never meant to hurt her. Swore he loved her more than life itself. He blamed the job and the bills and asked for one more chance. He said he never could love anybody else, and he won't hurt her, he won't hurt her, he won't hurt her anymore. He's still the man she loved before, and he won't hurt her anymore. For a moment, she wanted to believe him. His pain was almost more than she could bear. And no matter what her friends had tried to tell her, she couldn't just pretend she didn't care. But she reached up and touched the memory of the scars that kind of love had left behind, of hiding from the world what she'd see in the mirror. She told him never call again, goodbye. He won't hurt her, he won't hurt her, he won't hurt her anymore. She's not who she was before. He won't hurt her anymore. She's not who she was before. He won't hurt her anymore.
Jim Melko, our guest on Songwriter Connection tonight. Jim is the teaching coordinator of the Songwriters Workshop at Southbrook, which is our chapter of the Nashville Songwriters Association International here in Cincinnati and Dayton. And it's just a pleasure to have him on the show. If you've joined us before, you might notice a different look tonight, but we're at Anderson Union Community Television, who allows us to shoot this program. And they've got a bunch of new toys that we're playing with tonight. We're having fun. The quality is probably a whole lot better, video and audio. And we've got a whole crew from the Ohio Center for Broadcasting, staffing the cameras. Tony back there running the audio, who's a great songwriter himself. We've got Garrett on camera 2. We got Eric over there on camera 3 and Chris on camera 1. Thank you, guys. And I'm Dave Lenahan. Listen, check us out online. If you want to know more about Southbrook Songwriters, it's southbrooksongwriters.com. Pretty easy to find out. And you can also join us at one of our open mic nights. We do it at the historic Claremont Inn in Batavia, Ohio, the 2nd and 4th Thursdays of every month. And man, we have a good time, so come out and join us. Jim, do you get to write a lot during the week still? Is it still part of your regime? How many hours can you devote to this?
I used to devote a lot more. Honestly, right now it just kind of fills in the cracks.
Yeah.
I do things here and there, but I'm very active in our church, and
Yeah.
of course I'm developing lessons for the workshop all
Yes,
the
you
time.
are.
And
they're great.
they come along. I mean, sometimes one of the writers in our group will give me a lyric or give me an idea for something, and we'll end up co-writing it, or I'll just. The other day, we're having something at church where one of our ministers is going to do a message called "On the Right Side of the Cross." So I promised I'd write a song for it. So I sat down and wrote a song for it.
And I heard it the other night. It's
Yeah,
great.
I'm used to writing on demand. I mean, if, give me the topic, tell me what the content has to be. I can do it.
You know,
because
that's
I've
what I
developed
love
that.
about your talent, Jim. I mean, that's something I could never do in a million years. And you can just do things like that. And they need a song for this occasion, and you're there. And that's talent. That's a songwriter. Let me tell you. Unbelievable. So it's so good to have you on the show tonight. There's so many things I want to talk about. You have a new single song track now,
Right.
a song that you've had in the works for a little while. So I want to know the story. And I've never had the opportunity of hearing this song, so I'm real excited about this portion of the show.
Okay.
It's called Wasted Paper. And
Right.
tell me about this song.
Well, it came about in a very odd way. I already had a staff deal, I believe. No, I didn't have a staff deal at the time, that's right. We were down in Middletown. We had our workshop down at the Living Word Church in Middletown. And we were down in their cafe area underneath their chapel. And I was doing a workshop that night on trying to find unique song angles for song ideas. Trying to come up with that unique angle to approach something that will make it stand apart from all the other songs on the radio.
I gotcha.
And I said, you can come up with an interesting angle on anything. It doesn't matter what it is. I said, and this is just totally off the top of my head, I said, I could pick anything in this room, like, for example, that trash can over there. And then I stopped and I thought, okay, now I've really gotten into it. Okay,
Now I
because I'm
gotta
about to
do it.
show them how I can write a
back it
song
up.
about a trash can. So I started free associating, you know, right there on the podium, and said, okay, so trash can. What do? You throw away things. What do you throw away? Well, you throw away garbage. You throw away paper. You throw away paper. Okay, so paper, you write things with paper. What do you write? You write letters. Okay, and I'm always thinking about relationship. You know, so I'm thinking, well, what does paper have to do with relationship? Well, letters are relationships. You're writing things to each other. So, okay, so we're taking letters, we're writing letters, we're throwing away letters. How would that work? And I began telling the story right there to the workshop that you had this couple who got into a fight, and you know, she's upstairs all night waiting for him to come up to bed, and he's not coming up, and she comes down the next day, and she's just decided she's had it, and she's writing out a note to this guy, and she's saying goodbye, and then she can't get the note to sound right, she can't get the words right, so she looks in the wastebasket, and she finds something. You're going to hear what it is in the song.
Okay.
But basically, I told them the whole story, and then years later, I carry this idea around because I don't like to write ideas right away. I want to get to know who these people are, landscape it,
Right.
as we said before, get to know who these people are, and then finally one day I just said, okay, today's the day, and I sat down, I wrote the lyric.
Wow.
And this is it.
Great. Can't wait to hear it. Wasted Paper. Jim Melko on Songwriter Connection.
Never came upstairs to her last night. Then she heard him start the car, leave the fight they had behind. He'd never say he's sorry, she knew him all too well. Like he couldn't say I love you, or tell her how he felt. She sat down at his desk to write goodbye. And no matter how hard she tried, it was all just wasted paper, crumbled up attempts to find a place to start. It was all just wasted paper when the pen can't seem to capture what is written in the heart. Page after tear-stained page kept getting thrown aside. How can she say it's over with a love she can't deny? Searching through the basket for the words where she began, she found some notes of love to her written in his hand. It was all just wasted paper, crumbled up attempts to find a place to start. It was all just wasted paper when the pen can't seem to capture what is written in the heart. He had flowers in his hand and a speech already planned. Found her sitting on the floor while all about her the wrinkled sheets with words of love he thought were all just wasted paper, crumbled up attempts to find a place to start. It was all just wasted paper when the pen can't seem to capture what is written in the heart.
Jim Melko, what a great song. Wasted Paper. Wow. And that's co-written by another member of our group, Stephanie Welch.
Stephanie Welch is a singer who came in to learn to sing the song, and I learned that there were all kinds of issues with singability. So we completely rewrote it and restructured it, and I learned a lot about how to make lyrics flow so that a singer can really work with the song.
Right.
And now it's out there. It's been pitched several times to different artists. Who knows?
We'll keep our fingers crossed and we'll hear that on the radio.
Yeah.
Hopefully, okay. Great. We have time for just one more song, but I can't tell you what an honor and what a thrill it is to have you on the show. Fantastic. Thanks for all you've done for our group and what you continue to do. I know that a lot of people owe their success to you, and so it's just great. Jim.
Yeah, thank you.
We're going to bring up Eddie, we call him Eddie Van in the group because, as you'll see, he's a player. Eddie Van Halen. That's actually Eddie Heintzelman to join you on this last song. And this is a blues and gospel mixed, huh? Kind of?
Well, they told me that it was impossible to write a Christian song that was blues, and I said, no, it isn't. So I wrote this, just to prove it.
Everything's possible with Jim.
That's right. That plus I wanted a song I could just wail along on, so, you know.
Right.
So here we go. I was cooling my heels. I was in control. Thought I was a player, didn't worry about my soul. I knew life is a con game, out to steal me blind. Then I heard it was for me that Jesus chose to die. He gave me something for nothing, baby, something for nothing, that's the truth. He gave me something for nothing, baby, something for nothing. You may say you can't believe it, but I'm telling you, believing's all you gotta do. Believe in your friends, believe in yourself, but all of that is gonna end. If you wait till tomorrow, you may play the fool. 'Cause if it turns to never, your forever won't be cool. There's something for nothing, baby, something for nothing, that's the truth. Something for nothing, baby, something for nothing. You may say you can't believe it, but I'm telling you, believing's all you gotta do. Something for nothing, baby, something for nothing, that's the truth. Give you something for nothing, baby, something for nothing. You may say you can't believe it, but I'm telling you, believing's all you gotta do. Believing's all you gotta do. Just believe that this is true. Yeah, that there's something for nothing.
Wow. Thank you for joining us on the Songwriter Connection. We'll see you next month.
When the one you love doesn't love you back, and you toss and turn at 3 in the morning, and you hear a train cross a distant track. There in the dark, some words start forming, and you write a song. Maybe it'll make the night easier to get through it. Maybe it'll ease the pain, but that's not why you do it. It's not a temporary, momentary